we first managed to do this seminar in Italian, so please forgive us if sometimes our English will not be the best, the best performance that we did in this room. So okay, we try, because we know that many of you are not speaking Italian, so we want to be inclusive also in this aspect in languages. So it's with a very pleasure that I want to introduce you the Dr. Patrizia Leone. If you know by our presentation that she is from ARIC, which helped us a lot in everything that concerned the green, for example, so everything connected to the project, founding project for our department. Myself follows a lot of seminary from her office, because I had to write down some projects. So it's an important aspect of our job to be sure that everything is in a good presentation when we start to ask for funding. So it's a great pleasure that I introduce Dr. Patrizia Leone. She is a PhD candidate in sociology and social research, is a current position. Her first level master in defense, right, and protection of childhood. She is a master degree in development and international cooperation. She is in the University of Bologna since 2010, and it's a very pleasure that she is here, because she worked for 5 years in an international cooperation. Is something which is not very present in our department. Some person that work out of our department and can help us in understanding how this kind of theme that are gender and so on are deeply involved in the research, because it's something that is not so many clear in our department, while it's an important aspect when we go outside. Okay, so it's a very pleasure that Patrizia Leone now speak us about how integrate the gender and the balance in European funding. Many thanks.
Thank you. Okay, well, nice to meet you. So my name is Patrizia Leone, and as Sara said, I'm working in the research area. Sara already introduced me, and also forgive me if my English is not the best. Just yesterday, we follow a presentation on public speaking, and the trainer told us that we normally have to prepare ourselves before a presentation like a week ago. We have to look at the place where we're going to present, but I didn't know that it were in English, so sorry about that. So some slides are in Italian, some are in English, but please ask me if something is not clear. Okay. Well, my CV has been already presented. So today, this is the map of what we are going to do in these 2 hours. I'm trying to give you some definition or some on the concept of sex, gender, and intersectionality in order to go in depth to the concept on how to introduce the gender dimension into the research flow. But before going into this aspect, I would like to give you some overview on how the European Commission intends gender and the policies that are related to gender, related to the research. Because obviously my job is to deal with the European funds. So what the information that you are going to find here are coming from the European Commission, and specifically from the Horizon Europe and Horizon 2020 program, which is the framework program for the research in Europe. So we are going to see this definition, the policies at European level on gender equality, the gender dimension in the Horizon Europe, and the heart of this presentation, meaning how some tools and tips and methods and techniques on how to introduce and integrate the dimension of gender in the research. So I think that is worthy to mention the Sustainable Development Goals as an overview, as an introductory framework before starting talking about gender. The gender equality is one of the is the fifth objective of the Sustainable Development Goal, and it is split down into many sub-objectives. And I think that it is important to mention it here because it is quite a background where the other policies grow or can come from this background from the United Nations. So as you see, this is in Italian, but you know, to end up with any discrimination towards women and girls, end up any kind of forms of violence and practices that are abusing practices like forced marriage. Recognize and acknowledge the domestic work, especially the not salary work for care, guaranteeing participation and equal opportunity in leadership, guaranteeing access and universal access to the sexual health in every and rights in reproductive area, and guarantees also rights to access to economic resources. And fourth, and enhance the use of leading technologies, enabling technologies, and adapting the every legislation to the promotion of gender equality. So what do we mean by sex and gender? The first premise that I am not an expert of gender study, but the definition that we are going to see here comes from, on one side, from the standard and institutional definitions from the European Commission and the European Institute of Gender Equality, which is a branch of the European Commission, and some studies coming also from Professor Elena Lupi and other professors that are our professors at Unibo that are more expert than me on gender. But of course, this is not an exhaustive definition of sex and gender. Gender study is a large field of study. So this is just an introduction about what we mean by sex and gender. So by sex, we do intend the differences, biological differences in terms of between male and female bodies. While with gender, we intend the socially constructed difference between sex and the relations and behaviors between the two sexes, between the two gender. So we can say that gender is a social construct and is a relational practice. To go more in depth with this definition, we can see that sex refers to to biology, and we can enumerate the sex in three categories, like male, female, and intersex. And so we can see that in society we can distinguish between male, female, and hermaphrodite from the sex point of view. When it comes to talk about gender, gender refers to how the society is built, and it identifies if the society, the roles that are assigned to every sex in our society. So the hierarchical position between men and women, and if a given society assign given roles to male and female. So in the area, in the social area, in the political area, and economical area. So care work, reproductive work, productive work are assigned normally in this society, in the patriarchal society, to women. So we can say that gender refers to socio-cultural norms that define the stratification of society and relates to the structure, so how the society is organized, and it shapes behavior, products, technology, environmental, and knowledges. And gender, it is a changing behavior, and it shapes different relationship between male and female, and also beyond male and female. So it actually is a principle that construct and order our society. Gender identity refers to what every individual person feel in that and the individual experience, regardless the sex that has been assigned to this person at birth. So, of course, this can be changed, this can be modified in the life course through different tools, like, for example, surgical and other means. There are many different gender identities. So when we refer to LGBTQIA+, we refer to the gender identity. So these are the basic differences between sex and gender. But we have to add another important category of analysis, which is the intersectionality. Intersectionality is a relatively new concept, but it is being used very often and in research and in society, and describes the overlapping or the intersection among different social and identity categories such as sex, ethnicity, age, socioeconomic status, sexual orientation, and also, origins. Well, it is not only a category of analysis, because the concept of intersectionality comes from feminist movements in the United States, especially from the and that these terms has been coined by Kimberly Crenshaw in 1989. She actually revised some some codes. No, it was just no. It is quando vai a fare un giudizio contro la legge, cioè erano delle sentenze. Sentence? No. Cioè delle sentenze. Okay, well,
against the law.
Yes, she analyzed she analyzed the product of the judgment from of the law, coming from a group of women, black women, Afro-American black women that caused the Ford, the enterprise Ford, because of Ford fired them. And Kimberly Crenshaw analyzed that this discrimination not only came from the fact that they were women, but the intersection of the fact that they were women, black, and poor. What is important when it comes to analyze gender is taking the assumption that not all women are the same. There are many different positions that women can have in society in terms of advantages or disadvantages, in terms of discrimination and oppression. So it is important to analyze their position in society and see if this discrimination is a product of many intersection of many positions of disadvantages, such as not only being women, but only being racialized, being in socioeconomic status, your origin, your ability, your physical ability, for example, or your sex or your identity in terms of sexual identity. So intersection is not only a methodological approach, but it's also a lens to reveal multiple oppressions. The concept born with the intersection of race, gender, and socioeconomic status, but then it has been enlarged to many other categories. For example, in our context, perhaps maybe race, it is not so important, but there are many other categories that can be evaluated when it comes to think about and analyze intersectionality. Well, there are a difference between gender equality and gender equity. So when you, as you can see from this picture, we are equal if we provide the same access to resource to all the people. So the equal access cannot be enough to guarantee equal rights. So as you can see here, the same support has been provided to people, but people are different. There are many identities at stake, so it is not enough. We are trying to reach equity when we trying to get the support they need in order to realize their right to see the match. But a step forward is justice, equality, gender justice, or any other kind of justice, which meaning removing the barriers in order to the barriers that cause inequity and address a new perspective. Okay, so based on these premises or theoretical premises and the framework of the UN SDGs, the European policy has formulated a gender equality strategy 2020-2025 based on the Ljubljana Declaration, because gender is a key fundamental principle in Europe, in the treaties of the European Commission. The European Commission recognized the value of gender to achieve a better economy, to achieve a more innovative economy, and to realize equity between sex, because in order also to reveal new talents. So it is not only a fundamental right, it has also an impact on our society. The gender equality strategy is adopt a dual approach. From one side, it has a specific policy objective that you can see from this slide. On the other side, the approach is to make gender a cross-cutting principle among all of the policy area of the European Commission. So the policy objectives are ending gender-based violence, challenging gender stereotypes, closing gender gaps in the labor market, achieving equal participation across different sectors of the economy, addressing gender pay gaps, closing the gender care gap, and achieving gender balance in decision making and in politics. In a bit, we will see how this principle can be applied to research and innovation environment. But as I said, the dual approach also is from the gender equality strategy is to apply gender mainstreaming in all EU policies, which means to systematically integrate the gender perspective in all of the all EU policy and the major initiatives. For example, we can find the gender integration, the gender introduction in green transition policy, in the digital transition, and under all the policy of the European Commission. Let's go more delve into the research area, which is something that is more close to our daily life. European research area is a document that which foreseen many actions to build, to reinforce the European research area. Among them, there is a policy objective, the policy objective number 5, which is the gender equality. But these are the state of the art based on a report that you can find on the internet, and you can you have the link, which is She Figures 2021 report, which report a survey made in the academic environment. These data tell us that at the very beginning of the careers, we are approaching to and closing to equity between women and men in terms of women that obtain a PhD. However, there is a disparity, horizontal segregation among the subjects. So most of women, most of them are employed in SSH field, while there is still a lack of participation of women in STEM area. Women, so at the beginning, at the early phase of our career, women and men are equally, let's say, quasi equally represented. But then women represent only 32% of researchers, and only 26% will become full professor. So this is very important because it gives us the idea of the glass ceiling. I don't know if you have heard about this, but in fact it is an invisible barriers that prevent women to access to the top position of society. This is in academia, but it can be reproduced easily in other area of our society. So the glass ceiling is actually the fact that women, for the fact of being women, are prevented to get the top position. And this is visible in these numbers. So at the beginning, there are almost equity between men and women, but then only 1/4 of women can accede to top position in terms of decision making and in terms of academic position like full professor, or even women heading higher education institution, or being present in boards, in top management board. This is also visible in scientific production. So at the beginning of the career, the scientific production is almost equal, but then pairing with the position, it decreased for women. And also in terms of working condition, women work more part-time and under precarious working contract than men. So the European research area wants to address these imbalances. How? Why? How? To encouraging at the institutional level to adopt an inclusive gender equality plan, to actually promote inclusiveness, to strengthen the focus and the participation on the STEM area, and to tackling gender-based violence in academic setting. The gender equality plan, maybe you have already talked about this, but just a few words. It is a concrete plan to promote positive actions on gender equality, diversity. And so it is tools to institutional change. It is a public document signed by the rector, which has dedicated resources, and it has to implement surveys to collect data, to monitoring data, and to propose positive action like training and capacity building on these main areas, which are work-life balance, so to improve the organizational culture, the organization and the organization of the academia in order to favor the participation of women, gender balance in leadership and decision making, to assure gender equality in recruitment and progression, career progression, to integrate the gender dimension in research content, which is the focus of the today presentation, and to approve measures against gender-based violence. I said that my business is Horizon Europe. Horizon Europe has put a great emphasis on gender, which you can see that it is part of the legal basis. So if you read the document, the legal basis of Horizon Europe, you can see that it is an important part, both the gender balance, but also the gender dimension into research, into the research content. And it is also an award criteria. So for those who are not familiar, the Horizon Europe is judged under three main pillars of evaluation: research, scientific excellence, impact, and implementation. So within the excellence, scientific excellence, one of the criteria of evaluation is gender, is the gender integration. So in the methodology of the project, we have to explain and describe how we consider the gender aspect in our research, and this is a criteria of evaluation. It is also a criteria when two proposals are get the same score. In this sense, gender balance is important. So if we think project that constituted by a large team of professor and researcher, we have to take care, and we have to think also about the gender balance between leading position also in the project. So we can do something from our little perspective to achieve the great objectives and the policy objective that we saw just a few minutes ago. In the submission template, gender equality, as I said, is present both in the administrative part. So we have to account how many women researchers, male researchers, non-binary researchers are involved in the proposal. We have to acknowledge the approval of a gender equality plan in our institution, because it's a compulsory requirement, but it is also part of the narrative part. So the called part B, which, as I said, is part of the methodology 1.2, and it is also important in the when we describe the consortium in the section 3.2, we have to also acknowledge the gender integration in the group of researchers involved. So if this large premise is completed, now we can focus on the integration of gender dimension in research. Because, and I will try to give you some tools some methodological tools on how to do this, because we might have the intention to do it, but we don't know how to do it. So we start from the consideration there is a lack of knowledge. Yeah, Livia, please.
But maybe just make a comment, just to introduce something for the students.
Yeah.
I think it is important to focus as we do on the concept of integration of the and the idea that through this very practical tool, the European Commission really wants to produce a cultural change, not just to do something that you can do some pink washing. There is a strong attention, a strong attempt to avoid just to do pink washing in the sense of just count the people, just do some, introduce colleagues, just to just for the pink balance.
Yeah.
So there are very, very careful tools and ways and a multiplicity, a plurality of ways just to try to avoid pink washing and just to produce a real cultural change in the sense that there is at the back, as the professor already said, at the back, there is the idea that integrating the gender dimension is not just a matter of right, but a matter to improve the quality of research and to improve the quality of the impact of the research and also to spark creativity. So I think that this is a nice perspective because it's not just a matter of equity or it's just there is some joy behind this and it's a sort of just an attempt to. And they are doing a great job. I mean, this is really a strong way to change the approach to research because just to include this different perspectives. So try to think and to imagine how practical tools can be a way to spark imagination about how the gender dimension can do this work.
Yeah, thank you, Olivia. Actually, the next slide is especially dedicated to what. Not this one. Yeah, this one is dedicated on what you are saying. So it's not just for us. It's not important to just to pick up something and put it in the project just to get the value or get well evaluation. I think what it is very important to understand the value of what we are doing. So as Olivia said, it's not just pink washing. So I just introduced these two slides on why it is important, not only because we are evaluated. I know that. Yeah, many of us do like it. Yeah, get the money, but also look, we are a research group of only men. Maybe in the future we are going to be negatively evaluated because of this. So maybe we have to recruit one woman. Okay, this can help, but this is not the idea. And the idea is to understand that it has a value. And what is the value? I just put it here the words of the Commissioner for Innovation Research, Maria Gabriel, said that put this aspect into consideration is vital for the societal relevance and quality of research and innovation, because the diversity is a quality and brings some new perspective that can be added value on our research. So help research to question gender norms and stereotypes and rethink their research, leads to an in-depth understanding of the needs and behavior. So try to make our research respondent to gender needs and expectations. Address the diverse needs of citizens and enhance the societal relevance of the knowledge, which is our objective actually. No? Our objective is to achieve impact, social impact and societal relevance of our research, and contribute to production of goods and service better suited to new markets, and also add value of research teams in terms of excellence, creativity, as Olivia said, and business opportunities. So it has a value. It is not only a way to be well evaluated. And I also took this slide from a document on public work in Argentina that has been made by a very good professor in architecture, but she is working with UN Women, Anna Falou, on why it is important, what the inclusion of gender dimension brings to society, to politics, but also in academia. So it brings with a false neutrality of politics, of research, that in fact are cover the inequality between gender inequality, brings a focus, an intersectional focus to different identities, respond to different necessities, different needs, but also it helps us, having this perspective, having this lens in mind, help us to analyze and to understand gender roles, because sometimes they are there, but we cannot recognize that these behaviors are coming from different roles, gender roles. Give us a different methodology, and also, which is very important, it is a tool to empower women. So we also have to, we do not have to forget the positive value and that brings also to people. So it's not only matter of research, but it's also value to people. So in this process, we are having a new methodology, we are revealing perspective, we are making social impact, new needs, but we are also making up a process of empowerment. So going back to the very technical methodology, the European Commission built an expert group, like a task force charged to stimulate these methods and techniques to stimulate innovation. There are actually two reports, the Gender Innovation and the Gendered Innovation, the Gendered Innovation 2. There are plenty of techniques, tools that can be very useful for you to read, to better understand how to integrate the research, the gender in the research dimension. You might think when, in which kind of phase of the research you can integrate gender. Well, in all research cycle. So from the very beginning, when you identify your problem, to the research design, when you collecting data, analyze data, and disseminating your result. So what is important is to having a new perspective, to apply new perspective, and try to think in a creative way. So the methods I've just reported here are multiple methods. You can find these in the reports that are linked to the, at the end of the presentation, and are general methods like analyzing sex, analyzing gender, and it gives you some question or some tools on how to analyze these perspective into your research. I will give you some examples just to give you the flavor on what this report can contribute to your research. For example, if we think we take the method analyzing sex, we have to we can ask ourselves in all phase of the research, like identification of problem, research design, collecting data, analyzing, and dissemination. Which is the role of sex in the study? It is a variable. Different features of sex are relevant for our studies. We might not have relevant, but maybe yes. But we have to make this question to ourselves when it comes to understand the perspective. There are an intersection between the different categories. In the phase of research design, how we can, each sex can be conceptualized. For example, in health research, this is very relevant. If we have a longitudinal research, maybe the reproductive stories of women is important to be analyzed. When we collecting data, did we take care about the inclusion of a sample of male, female, and intersex? We do not have to also to forget about other people that are not nor female or male. In the phase of the analyzing data, did you consider where this data come from? If there are any different sexual differences, and so on. This is the same, but gender. So what kind of question can we ask ourselves if we want to analyze gender perspective? Are there any concept, assumption that can affect behavior of people because of gender, because of assigned role in society? Have you also considered the risk or the danger to stereotypize your people, the people you are working with through your research? This is also an important question. Sometimes we do not take care about this, but maybe we are reproducing some stereotype. Are there any hypotheses? Are there any assumptions in relation to your project? Maybe they are behaving differently because of some gender roles or intersectional roles. So there are any values, norms, identity, and relation of gender that can be considered through all of the research cycle. So I will give you here, just to conclude, some case studies, try to explain you. Where some of these methods have been applied. The first one is the impact of sex and the impact of gender in the COVID-19 pandemic. So statistics show that women died more than, men died more than women, but women suffered more from the health, the long-term social and economic consequences of the pandemic. So if we think about analyzing sex, we know that the data should be disaggregated by sex, and these differences has to be applied to models of and pattern of diagnostic and therapeutic. And also drug and vaccine trial should include different analysis between sex and between sex, because we know that the response to this pandemic was different because of sex, so biological future between people. But if we analyze in gender, we know that, for example, women comply more with hand washing or hand hygiene. So preventive measures should be designed in a gender-different manner. And gender affects the division of labor and care duties. So women are more exposed to danger in pandemics because they are doing care work, because they are more used to work in supermarket, in hospitals. So they are much more exposed than men. So the allocation of protective equipment therapy should be gender equitable. So this is a way on this, the pandemic can be analyzed applying sex and gender. Another example, analyzing how sex and gender interact. So in the case of chronic pain. So we know from the research that women generally display a lower pain threshold for all types of pain. And some research attributes this to sexy differences, some other to gender. So how the chronic pain is socially constructed. some of them on how gender and sex do interact. So we know that biological mechanisms such as sex hormone influence perception of chronic pain. But we also know that men, little boys, have been grown and been told to be strong, to be tough, to not represent the discomfort, so to not verbalize pain. This is not from the past. It is also very it's a current practice. No, all of us we heard Papa or Mama say, "You don't have to cry." Okay, so this gender norm can affect how you perceive your pain, and you know that now that gender stereotypes is influence how pain is considered, and it can change also sex, biological consequences. So biological difference might also be a consequence of gendered social influences. So this is a way on how gender and sex can interact and produce different behavior in society. Of course, it has an impact because healthcare can behave differently starting from these premises. Another important case study, smart energy solution. We know that we should know, all of us, that technology is not enough in order to achieve social change. So we have to take care about user acceptance of these technologies, because technologies is not enough. So integrate gender intersection analysis into research, but maximize the adoption of new energy efficient, because we know that some energy efficient technology cannot be adopted by some kind of household, some families, because of their position in society. So we come back to the concept of the intersectionality. So research on energy often ignores the human factor, but the international approach is needed to recognize people's multiple social identities. So, for example, we can promote the use of electric vehicles, but we have to acknowledge that household people with a low socioeconomic status cannot afford to have an electric vehicle. So, as you say, technology is not enough, and you have to take into consideration the social aspect. So these factors influence the life experience, and so we have to engage with people, with different kind of people, to make our technology accepted and relevant in society. Another method is co-creation and participatory research. This is applied to mobility pattern. Mobility is very much related with gender. First of all, because we know from research that mobility patterns are very different from men and women. So women normally have do many trips, many short trips, and do it by foot or by bus, while men do a one unilateral trip, longer trip from house to work by car. This is reproducible in many contexts. There are many differences, of course, but we know that women use more sustainable, they're using more sustainable mobility than men, and they are doing shorter trip because they have to accomplish with many tasks, like accompanying children, accompanying elderly, making task for the house, while men just doing one trip by car. So they spend much more time, women spend much more time in their daily work, in their daily life, because of transport than men. So this is what we know. So in order to better understanding gender needs and to making an urban planning adapted to the needs of women, we have to engage with women and men to better understand their needs and expectation. There are also many other aspects in transport, like safety, We know that many women are harassed in public transport, obviously more than men. So of course, this is a very important case of relationship between society and gender. Last case is about where is this? Well, okay, analyzing gender in the chatbot. Virtual assistants are often biased because, for example, of the voice. So this is a case when we reproduce stereotype. Normally, the voice is really feminine, quite feminized, maybe sensual voice. So this is a case when we should take care about, we should integrate the gender perspective in order to avoid to reproduce stereotype. And so virtual assistants need to be trained both with artificial intelligence or not, to also to a varied kind of languages, because sometimes also, and also because we applied European language, European way, and we transfer this in other context. So we try to combat the prejudice and the harm that can be caused with artificial intelligence. So artificial intelligence also need to be trained not to cause stereotypes and to cause prejudice. This is also applied when it comes to selecting personnel in human resources. Okay, so these are just some examples. You can find many other examples in the report. There are some suggestions that can be useful if you want to integrate the gender dimension. So we do not have to taking care and be attentive to assume that all women is an homogeneous group, and all women and men do necessarily behave differently. This is not a good assumption. There are many differences between men and women, but sometimes men and women can act equally. So we have to take care to not reproduce also our stereotype. Observe differences and men are solely biological in origin. No, we saw that there are gender considerations that can be applied. Life conditions are similar for women and men. No, and we have to try to think creative and think that there are many identities at stake. Well, going back to the in a very practicalities of our project, when we write a project, we can ask ourselves if we have a partner, for example, that are expert in gender, that can be useful to help you and to help the consortium to address this aspect. If there is a gender balance in your team, if there are some specific dedicated task of monitoring gender equality, or on the contrary, there are this is a cross-cutting issue. But how did we think and did we foreseen the gender aspects horizontally in our project activities? I know that perhaps this is a department that this concept is not very well manipulated, maybe because we do not perhaps work too much with people. But if your project will deal with people, then you can integrate the gender dimension, regardless the kind of subject of domain, scientific domain you are dealing with. So, for example, when we in the research in the climate area, the involvement and engagement with citizens is always important. And we can think about gender. We can think that, for example, climate action as or produce different adaptive strategies from men to women, or different impact on women, or a different impact on different group of women. So all of these differences has to be accounted in our research. Maybe time is out. No?
Please go.
Okay. Okay. Well, since we just talk about the involvement of citizens, I just put here two slides about on citizen sciences and co-creation, just to give you some tip and some to better understand these concepts that sometimes and are usually a bit overlapped. So co-creation, it is a way to involve multiple actors and stakeholders in our research, but it can be split down into many different types of involvement in a ladder, let's say, that goes from and stem from co-creation, participatory approach to citizen science. So there are many different kind of involvement in the research for participants and for citizens. So co-creation can be just shared our result, which is open science, where so we can start from just share our result to citizens, to having people, citizens, be involved in the design of the research. So there are many different stages where we can work with citizens. Open science, as I said, it means just freely access and use your research. But citizen science is actually the active involvement of non-professional scientists in the research. So is the more complete stage of the involvement of citizens in research. We can think about, we do not have to start with the whole involvement of citizens in all of the phase of our research. We can start by introducing them in some activity, for example, in co-design activities, like, for example, when you identify problem, making some workshop to understand what are the needs of people, in co-creation activity involving citizens in the development of the research, assessment, so in a large range of activities. Of course, engagement requires many resources, time, expertise, and also money, but is very important to make your research result relevant for society. So last slide is about some funding opportunity on gender. If you are interested in applying gender equality in Horizon Europe. So in Horizon Europe, we have a specific work program dedicated to the institutional building, which contain also a part on gender, a section on gender. So, and this is the name of widening participation and strengthening the year, which is a specific work program, not only on gender, but on institutional reforms and on the so-called responsible research and innovation, which comprise not only gender equality, but also science education, open science, science education, open science, gender, equality, and ethics. And as I said, gender is also cross-cutting principle in all of the gender domains, gender subject. So what we did today, we just see that gender equality is the top one of the priority in policy, in the European policies, and at the institutional level we have gender equality plans. At project level, we saw how to integrate the gender dimension in project, and we see that involve institution and persons. And gender is also mainstreamed across all European policies. So here you can find the tools that I've been mentioning. There are other reports, not only the European Commission report. Now today, to be institutional, I just reported the one from the European Commission, but there are many other, like Stanford University, Yellow Window. So there are many tools that can be useful because there are many examples, so that they can be applied to your research, hopefully. Okay, this is all.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
I think it's very, very interesting presentation. Thank you very much for your English. It was perfect.
Sorry.
Thank you.